Hello to those just attending. We're just going to wait a few minutes to see how many people come rolling in, and then we'll get started here really quickly. There you go. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nathan Coons, the 2023 Chair of the Remodelers Council. Welcome to those in person at the MBA-KS and those joining us online to this special Remodelers Council event. For those that aren't familiar or haven't used Zoom webinar in a while, we'll be adding housekeeping notes and helpful tips in the chat. As a reminder of who we are, the Remodelers Council is a fellowship of remodelers and associates who share their acquired industry knowledge and business practices, promote the general welfare of their membership, and sustain participation in the MBA through mentorship, education, and service. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank both current and past Remodeler Council leadership for their contribution. I'd now like to introduce Craig Ball of MBA-KS to tell us about the sponsors who made this event possible today.
Thank you, Nathan. We're very grateful to have such wonderful sponsors for today's webinar, and we hope that you'll consider providing the following member companies the opportunity to earn your business: Ferguson, Pella Windows and Doors, Velux, EarnWest, and Hydroblock. And now we'd like to hear a few words from John Meyer on behalf of EarnWest. Take it away, John.
Thanks very much, Craig. Craig, EarnWest is really proud to be the administrator for the Master Builders GRIP retrospective rating program. And I think most of the people know what the GRIP program is. It's a way that remodelers can earn, between 30 and 40% of their workers' compensation premiums back every year, provided that they have good safety practices and can manage their claims. What EarnWest does as part of that program is we help all of the companies enrolled in the program with their safety practices. We help all of the companies enrolled in the program with their claims. And the GRIP program has a really nice feature that helps employers basically be able to get reimbursed 100% of light duty wages when they bring injured employees back to work on a regular basis. Altogether, there's a tremendous benefit from this program, and the cost to participate is minimal upfront. So I think it's one of the best values out there in terms of retrospective rating. We're proud to be associated with Master Builders and proud to be associated with the GRIP program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Next, please welcome Molly Wyatt from Pella Windows and Doors. Take it away, Molly.
Hi there. Thank you so much, Craig, and everybody who's attending today. We are so proud to be a sponsor with you guys, as always. So thank you for having us. For those of you who don't know, my name is Molly Wyatt. I am the marketing coordinator with Pella Windows and Doors of Western Washington. If you haven't heard of us, we're actually the fastest growing window brand in Western Washington, which we're super proud of. We're actually the only one-stop shop left in the business, and we're backed by a 100-year-old brand, which is pretty cool. So if you're unfamiliar, we manufacture, sell, service, and install only Pella products. We manufacture vinyl, wood, and fiberglass products, and we go to market in a few different ways. First, residential remodel. Then we work with contractors and architects on new construction. And of course, we work with architects as well with commercial projects. So we do a little bit of everything across Western Washington, all up and down. We're also rated #1 on Consumer Reports, so really well-backed products. We work out of our showroom mainly in Bothell, but we're actually opening up a showroom in Tacoma here in the next 6 months or so. And all of your guys' support has been help in growing us to where we are today. So thank you again for having us as a sponsor. Really excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Molly. And again, please consider supporting these sponsors that make this type of great content possible. All you, Nathan.
Thanks, Craig. Before we begin, for those joining us online, please note that the wonderful MBA-KS staff will be adding a series of links and documents inside the Zoom webinar chat throughout the program. We have the chat open to everyone and would love for you to participate as you like to by commenting in the chat. We also have a Q&A option. Please type in any questions for our speaker, and our moderator will present your questions during the Q&A session. For those joining us here in person, I'd like to remind you that we'll be hosting a special networking happy hour in the banquet room immediately following this event. We hope you'll join us for this. We also have some other great up-and-coming events. PWB Conference on October 5th, Housing Solutions Breakfast on October 19th, Remodelers Home Tour on October 21st, Painting a Better Tomorrow on November 4th, and then the final RC dinner of the year at the Museum of Flight on November 16th. More details to come on this event. Let's begin. I'm pleased to introduce today expert presenter Dr. Fahimeh McGregor, the owner and founder of Delta Informed Decisions. At DID, Dr. McGregor empowers organizations in the construction industry to drive down operational inefficiencies and power projects and people at scale. She provides businesses and technology functional consulting advice, management services, ignites opportunities for growth and innovation, while creating environments that enable businesses to maximize their people, data, and processes, saving them time and money. Dr. McGregor's passion in equipping businesses with continuous improvement culture, lean, to leverage their data and digital competency. And through facilitating insights driven by data, not hunches, helping businesses across public, private sectors, and NGOs to drive safe, stable, and sustainable solutions. Please join me in welcoming live from New Zealand, Dr. Fahimeh McGregor.
Thanks, Nathan, and hi, everyone. Thank you for arranging this webinar and joining the webinar, whoever is attending here. I'm going to share the screen, and I appreciate if you can just let me know if everything is coming through. Nathan, is it presenting now? If you can confirm, please.
Yes, it's presenting now.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I would like to pass on a special thanks to Master Builder Association for inviting me and arranging this webinar. As the name of the title implies, there are two key areas which should be addressed when we are aiming for the profit, maximizing profit in business. Those areas are control and data visualization, which I will explain them in this webinar using the lens of project management. Let's have a look at the life of project managers. Welcome to the life of project managers, such a role that requires effective multitasking and the ability to handle numerous tasks simultaneously. As project manager, we are responsible for overseeing every aspect of a project from initial planning to execution and delivery. However, the success of any project heavily relies on accurate and timely data. Data serves as the backbone of project management, providing valuable insights that guide decision-making and help us assess the progression of the project. By leveraging data, we can identify potential risks, monitoring resource allocation, tracking project milestones, and ensure that we stay on track to meet project deadlines and objectives. Why control? As I said, one of the aspects for maximizing profit in the business is to bring in control, having a good control over decisions and actions. What does that mean? As we see, project management is explained earlier, project management is an extremely data-rich activity, but not information-rich. I would like you remembering that why I am distinguishing in between being data rich and versus information rich. At any point of time, project managers or everyone who is involved in the project management activities need to capture, transfer, document, and communicate project data from different aspects and across different work streams. So how clearly and accurately the data get captured, transferred, communicated, that is all depending on how we design our project or our businesses. Simplifying this, I would like to say that we need to always have a role for the control tower in our organization or project structure. Why? Because the takeoff and landing of the projects or any activities needs to be done safely. Imagine an airport that doesn't have a control tower. Do we trust on that airport to take any flight in and out of that? So of course not. The situation of our business is the same. And the story of the visualization. Visualization is critical for taking a good control. Why? Because data visualizations are so effective because they shift the balance between perception and cognition to take better advantage of the brain's abilities. Seeing or visual perception, which is handled by the visual cortex located in the rear of the brain, is extremely fast and efficient. But is that new topic, or is it something that never been addressed or part of our practices? I would say no. It's been in the history of the project management. History of visualization in project management shows that traditionally, project management has been relied on numbers of visualized information and approaches such as Gantt charts, work breakdown structures, process diagrams, a stakeholder organization chart. But how they've been adding value, it's been limited to only a specific groups of people in the organization or the project, or their value was just for the certain time. One of the barriers with those tools and approaches is they couldn't tell the collective story of project status or the performance, or they couldn't engage the rest of the teams or business units. However, if you search for the latest studies, I'm sure that you would be able to find out that their values remained in the hand of specific groups. Reading the Gantt chart, for example, is not something that everyone can follow it. So we need to think of advancing those approaches and bringing better visualization approach or methodologies into our practice to take better control. There is another reason that reminds us that why we should think about control or why we should think about transforming our practices. That is, this study has been done by McKinsey Analysis in 2013. And I would like to let you know that based on, the searches and the study that I have been doing, the situation is still the same. Cost and schedule overruns, unfortunately, become the norm in the construction sector. And that is something that we need to do some changes about it. Most of the small and medium-sized businesses, for example, in this industry, they've been struggling to survive. Most of them failed the project or going over the time and budget. So how to mitigate the risk of losing the business or failing the project? Sometimes I get the statement or the comment or feedback that this is construction sector is very different from the ICT or manufacturing. I acknowledge and I appreciate the uniqueness of the construction sector, but still we have some choices, great choices. That is where I thought sharing with you some of my latest experiences in construction industry in New Zealand. I have been working across different industries, but for this webinar, I was thinking that sharing two of the examples over the last 6-7 years in New Zealand, I had experience with two projects that we created great success. It could have different meaning, those success, but I will share with you that what was the background of the projects and how we made them successful. In one of the projects at the value of 1 billion New Zealand dollars, we ended up with delivering of the project 5 weeks ahead. And yes, that equal to saving 15 million New Zealand dollars, but the success was not just limited to that money, saving of that money. Measuring the success, of course, is complicated. To me, the most important part of that success was related to the human resource management, resolving fatigue by dropping work hours from 50 to 43 hours per week. That was really impressive and meaningful to me as part of the success for that project. In another project, at the value of 300 million New Zealand dollars, when I joined the project, it was almost the time that stakeholders lost their trust, relationship was absolutely broken. But over 6 weeks, we did not only bring the project back on track, but also we saved the overtime charges at the value of 2.7 million. None of those success happened through a magical interventions. But what we did or what was the secret, that is something that as part of this webinar, I would like to share with you. Here you see the delta symbol, which is the triangle symbol in the right-hand side of the screen, versus the delta components in the left-hand side of the screen, which is delta symbol, if you are familiar with the lean management, is the symbol for improvement. It means that the culture that is striving for doing something better is striving to find the opportunity for improvement. That's the foundation for any changes, any transformation. And within the Delta presentation, you are going to learn and understand that why the culture is quite important for the adoption of data visualization. Delta components are data evaluation, leadership, lean culture, transparency, and analytics, which through the future slides, I'm going to expand and explain each of those components. One thing I would like to highlight here is we need to implement all of those components at the same time together. It's a very comprehensive model, but if we leave one element aside, we won't be able to gain benefit from another one. For example, when it's come to the data, if we don't have a right culture, we can't appreciate transparency and we can't go with the visualization and visibility. So the value of the data is going to get lost, and that is where most of the time we've been facing failing with the data visualization or investing on the data and business intelligence. Let's go with the data chapter. I'm sure that nowadays we moved far away from selling the value of being data-driven. 2 decades ago, if I wanted to talk about transforming a business to become data-driven, wouldn't be quite easy as these days. Most of the businesses these days, they understand there are something in the data for them. As you see, for example, here, the McKinsey Global Institute revealed that a data-driven organization is 23 times more likely to turn prospects into customers, 6 times more likely to retain them, and 19 times more likely to generate a profit as a result. So why still we are not there with the value that we're supposed to gain from the data? It's something that we invested or we've been too much focused on the technical side of the data rather than the human side. The human aspect of data, which means utilization and practice with data like storytelling, reflecting on the leadership practices, reflection on the project management practices have not been addressed. So that is one of the reasons that we have got the Delta model to help us and assisting us to practice with data effectively. It's quite interesting when it comes to the investment on the technology solution. We have got on board the technology, we integrate numbers of the solutions that is capturing and storing the data. But 1 second, we need to have a look who is generating those data. It's a human. As a human, we are generating, we are creating environments for data generation and data flow. But are we waiting for the machine to use those data? Why we are not utilizing them? What is wrong? Yes, of course, there are numbers of the barriers, but let's shift the mindset and start thinking that data should be everyone's business. Data should not remain in the hand of a specific groups of people like IT or finance team. We need to turn data to become a common business language. It's quite interesting. Years ago, I was listening to Barton Paulson. I'm sure that you know him even better than me. He is the associate professor of psychology in Utah Valley University. And I really liked one of his statements where he said, teaching business people about data is easier than teaching tech people about business. So it means that we have got that great potential in our business, within our business people to teach them about data. We need to start from somewhere to turn the data to become everyone's business. That's the thing that is going to help us to successfully gaining benefit from data and insights. Otherwise, the language is going to be quite limited. The value and the benefit of the data is going to remain just limited in the hand of a specific groups. We need to break those silos and bringing all those sorts of the understanding and knowledge about the data or data competency, which I am going to cover it later, to become quite fundamentally addressed in the business. So as you're hearing that how we need to bringing that shift, one critical element around this topic is the transparency then that needs to be addressed. So imagining that we want to talk about the data, about the metrics, about how we are scoring our performances, but culture of the business is not yet there to embrace transparency. So how the value of the data is going to, or how the data is going to talk to us, how we can activate the power of data if we don't promote transparency. The value of data and metrics would get easily lost if we forget about that aspect, which is the transparency. There are numbers of cultural barriers which could easily drag us away from being data-driven or even resolving the transparency issue in our businesses, in our organization model. Some of those I was thinking to highlight them here is about working in silos. It's quite popular. Our organizational models most of the time been designed vertically, which doesn't quite allow different business groups to visibly collaborate with one another. We are all part of the same organization. We are all working towards the same goals and outcomes. But how much we know that, how we are contributing to delivering of those outcomes collectively together is quite invisible. Another thing is a judging culture. For example, when we talk about let data to let us know what's happening, how things are working, or why something is not working. So we want the teams to have that opportunity to raise the question, asking why is it working or is not working. But if the culture of the business is a judging culture, we're gonna struggle with that because no one knows even how to give the feedback or comments or raising the questions. Another thing to the judging culture is people usually when they afraid of raising the questions, then they're gonna start working with assumptions, which is gonna be quite big risk for the business because it may create a lot of reworking. So as part of the cultural barriers and addressing the transparency, addressing the collaboration and engagement that is quite visible. And it's going to open the door and opportunities for us to gain benefit from data. I would say that the best solution is to look at adoption of the lean culture. If you are familiar with the lean culture or you don't know, so simply I can say lean methodology is about continuous improvement. As I said earlier, is going to help us always to look at the whys and looking and searching for opportunities for improvement. Lean is about people, is about processes and measurable outcomes. So he's got great value when it's come to data and digital transformation. Many of us, we know that lean born in manufacturing. And sometimes I get that feeling that, oh no, we can't apply lean everywhere. I would say if we know lean from the base, if we know the concept properly, lean even can be applied to our personal life. It's not just because it has been born in manufacturing, then it should be just limited to manufacturing. Now we can find different versions of lean which has been introduced and spread across the other sectors like a lean construction, or within the health sector, we have got the lean practices around the quality management or the IT. There are numbers of reasons, as you see here, that I do encourage, or the Delta model encourages us to use lean. Because of the transparency, because it's going to improve communication, bringing effective collaboration and engagement. And of course, when it is the process driven, it's amazing for making the data to become to use, utilizing them, because it's talking about the processes, is going to bringing the focus on the processes. And also it is about proactive management. So if we don't have quite right culture or right thinking in place, then we forget about using the metrics and measures. So to promote or developing proactive management culture, Lean again has got a lot of tools and values that can offer us to be more proactive. And we know that with the situation of construction, as I said earlier, we need to do something. We need to be more proactive rather than reactive. So that is about the lean that builds measures for us and allows us to learn and earn. This is amazing statement, which I would like you, everyone, to remember it. Peter Drucker reminded us about the importance of metrics and measures. What gets measured gets managed. It's simply like cooking and following the recipes. If we don't measure the ingredients, so imagine about the final product, we bring the food to the table and just disappoint everyone because we didn't follow a specific metrics or measurements. How about lean tools? I said that lean has got a lot of tools. If we search, we may even find 100 plus tools. I'm not expert for all of the tools, but based on the research and my experiences over the years, it's almost a decade that I am working as a lean advocate and practitioner. So when I want to bring lean tools to add value for the data transformation or developing of insight-driven culture, I would say, look at those highlighted in white color here, which is 7 wastes, 5 S, 5 Whys, visual management. So in between those tools, we have got activity to get you familiar with one of those popular lean tools in the data context, which is called 5S. The rest of them, like 7 Ways and 5 Whys and visual management, there are something that if you look at my website, you would be able to find some of good articles that is talking about those methods and how they have been adopted for the purpose of the data and digital transformation. Before going to the game, I would like to give you a brief intro to the 5S system. The 5S system, again, is another lean tool that has been born in manufacturing, but the intention of this 5S system is to improve workplace efficiency and eliminates waste. Waste in the lean language means inefficiency, any non-value added activity called waste. What are those 5 S? Originally, those S stand for the Japanese words, but the English term for them are sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. How does the 5S work in the data context? It's going to improve quality of data, addressing the gaps in information, drawing a clear picture or clear messages, and brushing up information to enabling us putting them in practice because they're going to come into the right shape and format. And finally, achieving a visualized reports and information that enables us to regularly identifying potentials for improvement. So you're going to learn through the activity better about the 5S. It's a quite simple activity, but has got a really good way of sharing the knowledge that how 5S can benefit our practices with data. I think you should have the handout. So for the activity, there are 4 sheets, but I'm going to present it on the screen if you want to follow it here. So feel free to follow the screen. So from the beginning of the game, we go through each sheet at a time, and you are going to have 30 seconds. So I will explain that what we want to get out of for each round. and you're going to write down your score. What is the score here? Is the numbers of the figures that you can find them and crossing them off in the list. So I think someone in the room is going to help with the attendees in the venue to go through this exercise, but I'm going to do the time control here to make sure that we are all following the rule of these activities, and we would be able to write down our scores and wrapping up with the activities at the end. Yeah. So within this first round of the activity, you are going to have 30 seconds to find the numbers between 1 to 49 in the correct sequence or right order, not jumping, saying that you find 1, then 6 or 10. We want to go with the right sequence. It means that you are following the logic 1, 2, 3 up to 49, and you cross the numbers as you find them. And at the end, you're going to write down your score for this round. Then we go through the second page, third and fourth, and at the end, we are going to check the scores. I hope everyone is ready. I'm going to start with the time, 30 seconds. Let's go ahead, please. Okay, so the first round we have done, and let's go with the next page. Please don't forget to write down your scores. The second round is slightly looking different, okay? So first page was quite busy, too many numbers. Let's go through the second one within 30 seconds and again, writing down the scores. Start. Okay, that's the second round. 2 more to go. This is, as you are going through, I'm just reminding you to watch that, how the presentation is changing. Let's go through this one again. Number 1 to 49 within 30 seconds. Start. And now the last one, which you're going to be able to see how much your score is going to improve because of the visualization is changed. So let's go ahead with this one, and we can wrap up and covering the 5S system over this activity. We're going to start your 30 seconds. Great. We have done the activity. What I would like you to share with me, if you can just drop your scores or the each round of this activity in the chat messages. So I'm going to have a look at a few of them and then explain that what and how the 5S been working here in regards with the improvement of your scores.
Hi, Dr. McGregor.
Yes.
As you are waiting for the answers, can you please remind us how we count our score?
Yes, the numbers of the digits or the values that we found over each round, and we cross them off from the list. For example, if within the first 30 seconds or the first sheet, I could find only 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3. So my score is going to be 3 for the first round. And then next round, it could be 7, it could be 10. So the way that I want to say it in the chat is going to be first round score, comma, second round score, and third and fourth round. Does that help?
It does, thank you.
No worries. So I can see a few scores are coming through, and as we see, for example, the first one is started with 4, then 12, then 13, and 49. Next one is 8, 11, 13, and 49. So that demonstrates that as we improved the presentation of the data, we improved our performance to do the activity. So how does the 5S work here? As you realized, within the first round of the activity, for example, we have got numbers beyond what we needed. Okay, so it's something that we call it unnecessary information was provided here and was not quite helpful to do our exercise, was like a barrier for us. Also, if we look at the presentation, font size, and the color, so they are not quite easy for the eyes to follow them and read them. So that's why the first round we get lowest score. When it's come to the second one, we got rid of those unnecessary information. Our activity is saying that you need to be focused for number 1 to 49. So why we needed anything greater than 49? We cleared those and then we stayed focused. And of course, it's easier to follow. There are better spacing here. Readability is improved and our score is improved. Then when it's come here, we have got some of the lines, which is framing our visualization. And that is helping us also to be a way efficient within 30 seconds to find the data that we want or to do the activity faster and easier. And the last one, which is great, so that is something, this activity reminds us how 5S system as a lean tool can help us with our data practices. That is exactly what we need to consider when we are sharing the data and reports. If we see that our teams, they are not supporting us with the data or they are not buying into the value of the data, there are some reasons and we need to address them. The reasons are something like what has been addressed by Business Application Research Center, for example. Those reasons are introduced as necessary information are not available usually, or the quality of the data are not good enough. Just look back at the activity we have done. So the situation with our practices, with data practices in the business is exactly the same. So if we have too many unnecessary information, which these days is quite common, because we have been investing on numbers of different technology solutions, and we are collecting millions data, which could be necessary or could be not unnecessary. So we need to understand what parts of the information are necessary for which group of people. If we want to encourage our leadership team, our managers, our project management team to buy into the value of the data, we need to address these issues and challenges. The other things that here BARC study is reminding us, this study has been done in 2021, is saying that accessing some of the information that they could be useful are not quite easy, or some of the information that they are accessible, they are not quite purposeful. So the whole of this survey is reminding us about 4 critical attributes of the data. If we want data to come to use, if we want effectively putting data into practice to enabling our businesses to have better control, maximizing the profit and productivity. So we need to address 4 attributes for the data. Those attributes are reliability of the data, accuracy, accessibility, and relatedness of the data. So that is the summary, simple summary of this research that I wanted to share with you, because if we look at how our teams become quite disappointed sometimes with our reports not following and not engaging with the metrics that we share with them, there are some reasons. It's not that they don't have knowledge or there is some problem with their attitudes. I know that one of the reasons here, for example, is saying that some people, they think that instincts or their experiences and gut feeling is good enough and they don't want to have a look at the data or being data-driven or making data-driven decisions. But on the top of those, there are numbers of the issues related to the data. One of the critical one to have a look here, which is related to the human side of the data, is the unreliable data. I thought I'm going to expand this attribute of the data for this webinar here, because just we want to address some of the humanized aspects of the data. What makes the data to be unreliable? According to the numbers of different researches by McKinsey and Gartner, the main factor is introduced as data literacy. What is data literacy? Data literacy is about the ability to communicate, read and write with and about data in a context, a storytelling with the data, for example. But when we look at the data literacy sources and references, most of them, they have got major focus on the analytical and technical side of it, rather than human side of the data. That is where what we are missing is more around data competency. I practice data language and insight-driven with non-tech people. I practice it with leadership team that they don't have background of the analytics and they don't need to have. What they need to have is the analytical thinking and critical thinking to be able to use the data. So that is where I promote the data competency over the data literacy. And what is the data competency? The meaning of the competency is the capability to apply or use a set of knowledge skills and abilities to successfully perform tasks. However, data competency is going to be about knowledge and practice with data using our expertise. And one of critical skills, as I said, is the analytical mindset. Just to make it clear here that sometimes when I talk practicing of the analytical mindset or developing analytical thinking, I usually get a question that how many analysts we need in the organization. I want to just say that being data analyst is absolutely different from being an analytical thinker. Analytical thinker or critical thinker is a person who is looking for the whys. He or she is investigating or looking for the reasons to do something better, challenging the situation. And of course, that type of the practice is going to help us to look at the data and metrics, to look at how our score is look like today and why we are achieving this score. So the other reasons to remember that how our data become unreliable, and that is quite important attribute of the data. That's why I expanded here, because at the very beginning, we're gonna lose the engagement and our followers for the data journey just because of the unreliability of the data. So the data could become unreliable easily when we have a lot of unknowns that our culture didn't allow people to raise the question. Things remain unknowns and they've been working by assumption and by guess, so we couldn't address or visibly identifying some of the problems. We haven't been open to listen to the feedback, yeah? Or the other aspect like data strategy and the data gaps, which sometimes systems that we bring them on board, they don't get integrated or implemented in response to our policies and our requirements. So collectively, those challenges or those issues together, they make our data unreliable. We need to watch and address those issues as fast as possible. The other thing around as per BARC report, we understood that we have unnecessary information, or we use some of the terms like report interchangeably in the organization. I want you to have a look at this slide versus this slide. What's the difference? How this one read to you? Is it something that imagine you share and circulate with your project managers or your teams, and you leave it with them to guess what's happening in the business? So of course, it's not easy to follow. They are quite busy. They have got the other hands-on stuff to look after. So it's not something that we can expect them to go through this raw data. Okay, so I call this one, this is called a report, but it's not the meaningful report. It's not providing any insights versus the other one, which has got good framing. It's using the traffic light system to highlight the status of the project, the status of the performance. So at this stage is the time to be quite clear about the definition of report. Report, the same as the data, should have a specific attributes. It should be informative and actionable. If our report looks like this, we are not insight-driven organization. That is where I was saying that let's distinguish in between being data rich versus information rich. Okay, this data set, this raw data is not providing any information or any knowledge in the business. If we want to put the data in practice effectively and we want to gain benefit out of the data, we need to have a look at the adoption of this pyramid. Okay, so if our data can't come to this frame easily, we've been working with teams, understanding their requirements, understanding what messages are critical for them. And different group of audiences, they have different requirements. Some of the, if we look at the hierarchy of the business, for example, at the front line, their requirement is absolutely different from the top level. So we should frame all of those pieces in a way that allowing us to achieve great knowledge and creating wisdom within the organization. And that is going to be where data could start adding value to our practices, to our leadership, to our business insights. If we want to take a good control, we want to know what's happening, in overall picture, in a big picture where we are at and what's going on. So we need to go through this sort of the transformation, bringing the data to the level that is creating good information and developing good knowledge about the business for everyone. I know that that's quite a lot to take, okay? But how to simple it, how to support our teams, how to practice with the data to make sure that we are steering or driving our business to the right direction. So I would like just to share simply one of the analogy I created a few years back when I started shifting from the technical side to the human side of the data. And that was the time that I was reminding everyone to look at the way that we drive the car and receiving the information into the mirrors. It's exactly the same as driving the business or doing the project management role. We are receiving information and the data in different silos in the business, but they need to be reshaped, transferred, and getting through the right flow and right shape to enabling us understanding better about the road ahead, the risk, and all sorts of the activities that we need to manage them for having better control. So how we can support, how we can enabling our team to practicing better with this car analogy. It's something that we made and designed the car scorecard. I recommend that is a tool for the leadership and project management level because it's more of the leaders that they need to reflect how data is adding value to their practices. But because the practices are quite broad, they get confused that where I have to look at for the data. Or even when we get on board some of the BI group, business intelligence team, to help them with the visualization, they don't even know how to share their requirements. They don't know how to engage in the requirement analysis. And that is a phase, quite critical phase, but most of the time cost the business to go over and over to finally understanding what every business group requires from the data and visualization. But car scorecard is going to make it quite simple for them, because they are going to look at the power of the data across 4 critical dimensions. Communication, how effectively, for example, they are sharing and contextualizing data in their updates and their communication. Across the actions and decision making, how are the reports that they have got is informing their actions? For example, we had a look at this one. It's quite meaningful. They can follow the traffic light report. They can follow the color, understanding what's going on. But if there was this one, it's not quite easy to follow and gaining any knowledge. So it's not informing any actions for them immediately. They need to do a lot of data wrangling and analytical exercises, which is not their level or their responsibility. Other areas that we want to measure how data is adding values are relationship and risk, which of course evidence-based communication and managing and development of the trust in our relationship is quite critical. We want to have the fact that is supporting our relationship, or we want to have the data products that enabling us to mitigate the risk or proactively following and identifying the risks. So where to start and how to follow this data journey to make sure that it's going to bring some value for our business or enabling our business to take a good control, I would say that it's going to be two critical steps. Use of the CAR scorecard and CAR analogy, plus doing the data efficiency evaluation. These tools are freely available in my website, and you can, for example, going and doing the data efficiency evaluation, inviting numbers of your leaders and project managers from your team to do the survey. Then we can take you through insightful messages to see what's happening in your data and digital ecosystem. So behind that tool or evaluation system, we are using the Lean tool, which is the waste analysis, or popular as a team would, to enabling you understanding where are the non-value added activities around your data transformation or translation. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed. So I'm here for any question.
Hi, Dr. McGregor. My name is Ashley, and I am the education specialist here at Master Builders. Thank you so much for your presentation. This is incredibly enlightening, and I'm sure our members will be submitting their questions here a bit in the Q&A section. But as we wait for those to come in, I do have some pre-populated questions for you that maybe you could help us with. The first question I have for you here is, how long does it take a business to implement this visualization journey? What would that process look like?
Which is a very common question, and it's very difficult to answer because that is depending on the complexity of the business, size of the business, capability of people, and also competency level. Okay, so if, for example, we say we are dealing with a size of 15 to 30 people in the business. So based on my experiences, we had almost 6 months to 8 months of driving and developing of the roadmap for them. So the journey cannot be something to say we can design it as a one-off. As I said, is part of the continuous improvement. So we have to be prepared to adopt that mindset that this is a gradual improvement. It is a continuous improvement. Just we need to oversight that how we are taking it forward. So numbers of the factors like size of the business, complexity of the business, capability, and competency are quite critical to say that exactly how long it's going to take to adopt the data visualization.
Thank you. Another question I have for you is, where should a business start when it comes to implementation?
Understanding, the first place is to understand exactly how the data ecosystem been set up currently. What's the maturity level is, for example, I mentioned about that survey, that free tool. So it is something that is going to enabling us understanding exactly where we are with our data and digital ecosystem. So that's the best place to start, because it's going to help us to figure out how mature we are, okay, in terms of the ecosystem.
Thank you. Another question is, what would be the return on investment, in your opinion, on, going through all of those steps?
That's a great question. So I do usually say that, do you know what's the cost of the fatigue in your business and your project? Do you know the cost of stresses in your business? Okay, especially construction, we have to acknowledge that the numbers of the suicide we get in this industry is really huge because it's a very stressful business. It's a very stressful industry. So if we are familiar with the cost of those aspects, so that is going to be equal to what we can bring into our investment, So the ROI is very complicated to measure, but measuring the success of the value of the data, to me, is quite simple. When I say that the cost of the failing a project, when the project was 300 millions, they invested a lot on that. It was halfway through, they didn't achieve anything. And if they didn't do anything about it to resolve it, imagine the cost, how many people they would lost their job, okay? How many people they had to go under emotional impact because they failed. Yeah, so that is something I think for me is the best way to look at the ROI, is from the opposite direction.
Yes, absolutely. We did get a couple questions here that were submitted. Can you talk about the time, cost, impact of feelings made decisions versus data supported? So I think that this is a great question to kind of build off of what you just shared about ROI.
Yeah, and the other question also almost covered the same, which is, the duration again. Depending on the size, there is a cost to the implementation. It's not something to say that we can achieve it overnight, but I usually say that first get familiar with your hidden cost, okay? Over the years, how much waste you created in your business and how that has been impacting your productivity and your profit. So if first start getting familiar with that, and of course that is sort of the emotional intelligence side of the practicing with the data. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. I'm just trying to read it again here, but if anyone needs more clarification, I'm happy to go ahead.
Thank you. We do have another question in case, just to give some more people some time. You mentioned the 4 things that make data valuable. Can you say those again? We got reliability and access to data, but then if you could elaborate on the other 2.
Accessibility, relatedness, reliability, and that's a good question. There are 4 critical attributes. I will go back and repeating them.
And then while you're prepping for the answer for that question, again, any of our participants want to submit questions, they can do so through the question and answer button at the bottom of their screen. Or if you wanted to message them direct me or put them in the chat, that's okay too.
So, yep, reliability, accuracy, accessibility, and relatedness of the data. 4 attributes for the data.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions, but there is one that I did think of while you were presenting. And what would your advice or best practice be for all levels of employees? If someone was not necessarily in a position of leadership, how can they help create buy-in from leadership to start implementing some of these practices?
That is all relying on the leadership model. Okay, that's why Delta model encourages us to make the data valuable for your leaders first, promoting it or supporting your leaders to buy into data first, because that's leaders that they can start reflecting on the practices, they can design some smart questions. It's quite interesting in my experiences when we work with the data at the leadership level, and they start getting quite connected, understanding what does it mean for their practice model, for their performances. Then they go and design a smart questions for their team. Their level of communication all of the sudden change. Their level of questioning their teams even change. It's not going to be just judging them. They're going to look with their team, engaging their team in the journey. That can we find something to make it better? Can we do something in different ways? You know, that openness and being honest and transparent. So it comes to place. So that is the way that leadership influence the rest of the teams and why their organization become involved and engaged in the journey.
Thank you. That was really helpful. I don't see any other additional questions at this time. We can hang out for another minute or two. Dr. McGregor, thank you so much for your presentation. It was wonderful to have you today. I know we had a good number of attendees online. We also had some attendees here in the building. Thank you all for being here and for participating. As a reminder, as we're wrapping up, we will be sending a link with the recording of this presentation. We will also be posting it within the next week online, so feel free to share, invite people to watch in case they had to miss it today. But thank you again for being with us. Dr. McGregor, is there anything else you'd like to share before we close up?
I would like to thank you, everyone, and I hope that was quite valuable for people attending this webinar. So just they can find those free tools if they have, you know, they find it interesting. So they can find it from my website. So I'm sure that is going to be quite something new and interesting to start with. Thank you again for inviting me.
Of course, thank you for being here again. I don't see any other additional questions, so at this time the webinar is over. A reminder for people who would like to attend today, we do have general membership networking in the building, so thank you for attending.
All right, and I do have a closeout real quick. First, I would like to add that I have been working with Dr. McGregor for a while, and she has saved me 3 hours a week just in reduced paperwork and going digital. So that's just a little promo. A big thanks to Dr. Fahim and to all who have attended online and here at the MBAKS. Also, a big thank you to our sponsors. Thank you for attending this special RC webinar. Please join us for the MBA's networking in the banquet room. Thank you everyone who has joined. See you at the next event.
Thank you.